Hello, hello, welcome. Matthew Ashdown here, Green Knight of the Dream Arc, inviting you to join me and Rosie Aronson, who will be on screen any moment now, through the Dream Arc. And we're going to be taking a little bit of a dive into working with the snake as we approach the year of the snake. So welcome, everybody, and welcome, Rosie. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
I haven't said much. I know you're going to do the introduction here, but I've just let people know that there's going to be a little bit of snake medicine, and that you and I are going to riff around for a little bit. So why don't you launch us into it?
All right. Well, okay. Well, I could just say hello, everyone. As you know, you've got Rosie and Matthew here on behalf of the Dream Arc. And like Matthew says, today we're going to explore the deep, intense, cut through the crap quest of hunting. And if you're new to the Dream Arc, the theme of hunting is really reflected and embodied by a potent group of 16 animals that Richard intuitively gathered together in the Dream Arc Animal Codex, who we refer to lovingly as the family of hunters. So today we're going to be exploring the intersection between the hunters and, like Matthew said, the year of the snake, which according to Chinese astrology begins at the end of this month, which is January 2025, in case any of you are watching this in a future time. So in a little bit, I will be inviting you, Matthew, to dive deep into the specific snake territory. But before I do that, I thought I would just kind of warm us up to the hunters and what they're all about, more generally speaking, from a Dream Arc perspective. And I thought I would do that by reading directly from the Dream Arc Animal Codex that was written so beautifully by the very wise and poetic and infinitely articulate Richard Rudd. So I put a little notes over here so I can read from the hunters. And so just take this in. We're all gathering around the hunter energy. Okay, this is Richard now. Okay. We are the hunters. Be very wary of working with us. We are no joking matter. We bring to bear the awesome power of the predator and the understanding and sacrifice of the prey. This is an energy that drives all evolution. As it matures, it becomes less about survival and more about purification. The most successful hunters are fit, alert, strong, and inwardly honest. You cannot hunt well carrying baggage. Neither can you expect success if you're entrenched in unhealthy habits or worldly distractions and comforts. To work with us hunters is to step outside your comfort zone. It often requires physical and emotional or mental discomfort. The rewards of working with us, however, are great. We often work quickly and intensively in a single area of focus. We demand a higher tempo of commitment than any other group of creatures. We also teach balance and patience, for all hunting requires rest to counterbalance many long hours of alertness. If we've stolen into your life, as we have for all of you here, then the chances are you need a period of purification. Sometimes your purification may even require a reversal of your activities. If you're too addicted to activity, you may be asked to do nothing, or vice versa. We hunters are single-pointed and may seem cruel at times, but ultimately we too are a part of the Divine Mother's compassion. Use us carefully, therefore know that we are here to serve you at all times. Okay, so there you go, the hunters. The hunters ask a lot of us, but they give us even more when we receive their invitations. And I'm just wondering if there was anything that I just shared from Richard's words that really struck you or touched you or hit a nerve or relieved you. For me, when I was listening to myself read out loud from the Codex, I really heard, you cannot hunt well carrying baggage. That one I really heard. And neither can you expect success if you're entrenched in unhealthy habits or worldly distractions and comforts. I mean, I wonder if any of you can relate to that. Maybe you feel like you've been carrying around your share of baggage, or maybe you recognize that you've got some unhealthy habits or worldly distractions and comforts that are getting in your way. Whatever you're feeling, whatever's arising for you, just feel free to write it down at home or in your own journal or here in the comments. We always love to hear from you. And, just personally off the cuff, I can recognize how habitually I listen to too many podcasts, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed or like I can't stop my mind from racing. And I've certainly been known to get completely sucked into television shows that don't actually nourish me. I don't know about you, Matthew. I don't know if anything comes up for you or if you're seeing anything rising up.
There's definitely things. Yeah, there's people. Purification is a word that's coming through. I think that's something that resonated with people here. Somebody else said, ouch. Ouch. So yes, they're definitely one. I have been going deep with these hunters for the last month, and it is a period of purification. It is a period of intensification, and we won't be able to do it justice in this 45-minute conversation here, but to be able to invite it in and take it into your own life. And absolutely, I'm a book lover. I don't tend to podcasts as much because I retain through reading, and I love reading and I love writing. And sometimes I notice where I'm like getting caught up in the reading, because it's easier to do the reading than actually to get out there and do the writing, which is coming from within me. So it can be even some of these practices or things that we do that might seem to be like, they can at times be enriching us. Like there are times when I know I'm being enriched by reading. And there are other times when I know, okay, you're using this to distract yourself from the work you really need to, or you're really being called inwardly to do right now. So
exactly. Yeah, that brings up the whole question of balance, right? Like some of the best writers are the best readers. So it's really about what is the balance and how are we using it? What's our motivation? So thank you for that, Matthew. I was thinking, I don't know, has anybody said anything here? Because I had one more question.
There's not too much. Verbal noise and distraction that comes from, I think that's from our own Shannon Lee there. And podcasts, people are agreeing with the too many podcasts. Yeah, for sure.
Especially these days, it's crazy. Yeah. All right, well, another question that came up for me that I'd be curious if anybody else wants to share is whether you feel like you're hunting for something or someone at this time in your life. And if so, who or what might you be hunting for? Or maybe what might you hunt for if you were not so distracted, or if you were willing to stretch outside your comfort zone? So that's another thing to just think about. Anybody, or maybe you wish you had someone or something that was hunting for you. That's another thing. And if they found you, would you be ready? Would you be ready to receive it? So be honest with yourself. Anything coming up?
And maybe also we might be afraid that somebody is hunting us that we don't want to be hunted by. That can be another way that the hunting energy comes in. That's right. Good
point.
Purifying home inside and outside, says one person. And just Shannon Lee appreciating that. What is our motivation behind this? And no question, no answer specifically around what I'm hunting right now. And I think it's always interesting too, because we can be thinking we're hunting something on a conscious level, and then realizing that underneath it's like we might be feeling we're hunting something on the material plane when actually we're looking for something as well that's on the interior. And that, because a lot of these hunters are about inviting us to seek out something within inside of ourselves, and it will come through our worldly experiences. But it's hunting for self-love. It could be hunting for that part of me that feels confident, or, the compassion. What is it that I'm hunting for? Somebody here saying hunting for the right moments. So timing, hunting for rhythm. That's another one, right? Yeah.
I was hunting intentionally for forgiveness for like a year and a half. That was a huge contemplation for me. And I think these days, a lot of us are hunting for truth. What's real? Yeah. What is it to be a true human? The lines are getting quite blurred. All right. So Matthew, I hand it over to you. Why don't you take us into the next stage of our exploration?
Yes, for sure. Well, we've had this little introduction to the hunters, and we're also entering into the year of the snake. That will be on the 29th of January of this year, 2025. The Gregorian New Year has already taken place, but the Chinese New Year is still to come, and it's the snake. It's the year of the wood snake. And so with the snake, we get a lot of transformative energy. And with the wood energy, it's about growth and stability and creativity. And these are words that our community, stability and creativity, I think, are words that our Gene Keys and Dream Heart community are going to come quite familiar with this year. So the wood snake is the snake for this year. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we called upon one of the Dream Arc snakes? There's 5 snakes within the Dream Arc. And there's one that also happens to fit into this hunter's category, and that is the Cobra. So we thought we'd invite a little bit of intensity in here with the Cobra. And this is what I will say is like, yeah, if you choose to really honor and go deep with these creatures, any creature in the dream arc really, but definitely these hunters, you know, like I'm seeing somebody here saying they're hunting for peace, for within and for the whole. And so it's like, if we're hunting for peace, then, you know, probably all those parts of ourselves where we don't see, where we aren't experiencing peace will reveal themselves to us. And so there is definitely an intensity that these creatures. So if you're joining us with the Cobra today, and if you're ready for a little bit, this is the Cobra in the Dream Arc is a fear key. So a fear key, if you're thinking in terms of the gene keys, it's kind of related to the shadow. But I like to think of these fear keys as taking us through the fear and beyond. So we're never, you know, we're not just limited to the shadow realms. In fact, the snake is something that's deserves a little bit of a redemption in many ways, because over the millennia, it's definitely got a bit of a name for itself in different mythologies and cultures. But, you know, really, it is a potent symbol of transformation. And a wood snake, if we take that in. And then here we are working with the Cobra specifically. And what is the Cobra about? And as far as a fear key, what it's speaking to in the Dream Arc is the fear of not awakening. The fear of not awakening. And so where does that show up for us? And it can be these fears, they're very often unconscious. They're very often below the surface of our awareness. We might be doing lots of what we might consider to be spiritual practices in our day-to-day life, but are we really acknowledging how we're feeling underneath, and just what will it mean if I don't wake up in this lifetime? Or what's the pressure that I've put on myself? Or do I think I've already awoken and that there's no further, you know, there's nothing more to experience or to learn here on this planet? And so the Cobra can be a bit of a, you know, it can wake us up there a little bit itself. And so, yeah, it's here as well, like the title of this call, speaking to cutting off from laziness and distraction. Right. And so we get to explore those themes in a few moments here. But what I think I will do is we'll dive right into the reading of the Cobra from Richard. So you've got that in front of you, Rosie, haven't you?
Yeah, because normally the Gene Key site is down at the moment for maintenance. So we had to quickly, I had
improvise.
I printed it out for myself. But soon it's going to be available this year. The year of the snake. It's going to be available for everybody. Okay, so what do you want me to read?
The belly of the oracle.
What do you want?
The belly of the oracle. And so we've got the guidance of, you've got the guidance of the
Cobra.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the Cobra is definitely messing with us, because I just tried to go on. It no longer says it's maintenance. It says when I go to the Dream Arc Codex that it's a 502 bad gateway. So, so there's something going on there. So I'm glad you've got the written version of it.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to read the guidance.
Okay.
I think that would be potent. Okay. Yeah.
So should I hold this? I don't know if I can do both at the same time. Maybe.
No, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're okay.
So just cut me off when you think I've read enough. Okay, I'm Cobra speaking now. My medicine is highly specific. I come to cut away your spiritual laziness. I come to inspire you to reach for more, to intensify your spiritual practice at this time. Sometimes we drift away into distraction just as we're approaching a breakthrough. My energy will hold you to your inner commitment. There are 3 tenets you must learn, drawn from the great teachings of Tantra. They're called view, practice, and fruit. Firstly, you must have a clear view. What is your highest spiritual goal? Contemplate this question very deeply. Be highly specific with your answer. Don't just intellectualize this process. I'm a hunter, so go hunting yourself, inside yourself. Go deep and don't emerge from this question until you are crystal clear. Once you know what your spiritual goal is, then the next stage for contemplation must begin. What practices are you doing, and will they take you to that goal? If, for example, your goal is individual spiritual liberation and you're only working on a psychological level or with plant medicine, this alone may not be enough. You need a practice that relates fully to your goal. Otherwise, you cannot be in full alignment. This process of refining and redefining one's spiritual goal and one's practice is often overlooked. There's no point having a lofty goal if you're not prepared to make the sacrifices necessary to attain it. The final aspect of the fruit needs to nourish the first 2 tenets. Does your spiritual understanding perfectly match the goal? Or is all this seeking just a hobby for you? Again, be honest with yourself. The path of the Cobra is not for the light of heart. We are an intense brotherhood, sisterhood. We carry the sword of the Zen traditions to cut through spiritual ego, to be deeply sincere, even serious. Are you serious about your goal? If so, you may need to make some changes. Your current spiritual path may be completely unsuited to the reality. There's a little more, but should I stop there or should I just do the last paragraph?
I think that's, if you've got one more paragraph, go for it. Yeah, there's lots to work with.
Okay. I just wanted to get through the 3 tenets. Okay. We, the Cobra, bring a powerful bite. We are the Kundalini. To court these higher spiritual energies requires a great deal of grounding be done first. Use your fear of not awakening as the means to intensify your efforts, and do not attempt higher practices without knowing your own shadows very intimately, or the Cobra will bite you. Do not glamorize the power of Kundalini. It is a real and dangerous creature if mishandled. If you need to, find an authentic master or lineage and devote yourself to that teaching or teacher. It's time to get serious. Listen to my message.
Mm-hmm. Message received. Yeah, message received.
Richard.
So a nice light message to get us started with the year of the snake, hey? You know, it reminds me of a few years ago. It was a time when I'd been the spiritual tourist for a while, and I'd been, maybe it was feeling like more of a hobby. I'd dive deep in with one particular tradition and then found it kind of hadn't been for me. And so I was looking at other ones and I started and one night I had this dream, and in this dream I was surrounded by lots of little baby cobras. And it kind of, it's great actually listening to that and recognizing this in retrospect, that was at a time when I was like in this kind of being called into a deepening into, because there's many different spiritual traditions out there, and many of them have their different ways of approaching the spiritual life. And so it was a call for me into a deeper commitment at that time. And I'm sitting here in this time, reflecting on the nourishment I've received from that, but also invitation to where am I being called to go deeper? Where am I being called to reevaluate? So even though that dream was from a few years, I can relate it to what was going on at that time. But I can also, even when we were talking about this the other day, it had just been, the night before we'd even talked about bringing Cobra in today, I think it was, or before we'd even looked at it anyway, where it was just there was this kind of reevaluation of this and looking at where I'm going in my practices and where I do need to, where am I being distracted at times? And it's funny because last year I was working with the mongoose in the dream arc, and the mongoose is related to the 56 gene key, and the shadow of that one is distraction. And the mongoose is one that is, we're talking hunters. The mongoose is in a different category in the dream arc, but it's a hunter, and it's a hunter of snakes. Right. And one of the stories that I studied last year when I was working with the mongoose was the story. It was by Rudyard Kipling, and it's of Rikki Tikki Tavi. And it's Rikki Tikki Tavi is this little mongoose that takes care of a family. He's looking after a family, and he comes into contact with these two snakes. And, you know, in that blurb you were sharing about the bite and the venom of the cobra. And there's a lot of snakes out there that have this bite and this venom. The adder is another one in the dream arc, and it talks about this being a gift from the mother to wake us up in some way. And so, yeah, just recognizing that and recognizing how the mongoose has no fear of the snake. It has no fear of the toxin. It has no fear of the poison, which I guess in life we could see as, you know, the experiences that we meet in different relationships and different encounters in the world, whether it's on an individual or a collective kind of level. And so to me, it's fascinating. It's like, yeah, how can I embrace the snake in this way and also maybe continue to work with the mongoose that I invited in last year. So that it's always neat seeing the dance between different creatures and what creature we're drawn to. And the other image that comes up with cobras is quite often they're the ones that we see snake charmers working with, and the music that they play for them, and we see them kind of uncoiling and spiraling up and moving around. And yeah, it's just really insightful. And I actually, really connect with that creature and see what it's really about. So this is a good invitation with a little bit of trepidation.
I'm so glad you brought up what do you call it, the snake charmers with the flute? Because I'm definitely going through a purification and a refinement around my spiritual practices and my spiritual goals. And one of the things that I'm feeling more and more called to dive deeper into, as opposed to my usual rainbow path, which is very rich, but doesn't always go as deep as I want, is through music and sound. And I just bought myself a Native American flute. And I have been,
right,
isn't that interesting? Like, I never really put that together with the Cobra. But so there might be something here for me. I'm taking that in the moment as a synchronistic sort of invitation. Like, what is my commitment to the music, to the flute, to the singing, to become a flute, to become an open vessel for love in this world. And there was something else. I just wanted to say that, I think a lot of times we judge ourselves as lazy, or like we're getting distracted, but we don't see that often procrastination or what we call laziness or distraction is really, it's fear expressing itself in disguise.
Yeah.
And so that's always a good question. Like if I start getting really hard on myself, like, oh, you're so lazy, Rosie, da, da, da. It's like, what's the fear underneath that? Like, what am I afraid of feeling if I let go of this distraction? What am I afraid? Like you were saying too, like if you're reading a lot, but really your heart is asking you to write, what is the fear of being exposed, which is another one of the states.
Oh, yes.
So just another little question for us to be thinking about. Yeah. I don't know. Did you want to say some more? Before we.
No, I think that's really good. The laziness and the distraction that it's spoken to. I mean, we've had some good lucid conversations about this in our clubhouse spaces and elsewhere as well, because it's like, there's things that we might dub distraction. One of the things that when you work with the snakes and all these different snakes is you start to look at the themes of sexuality as well. And, I was a young boy who grew up in the Catholic religion, and there's a whole story about how sexuality is a distraction. And it's like, this is that having that clarity around our path, because, it's really, I'm also thinking of like the cult of Dionysus from many, many years ago, and how they were suppressed in their time. And they were much more about, there's a lot more partying and enjoying life, but there was other aspects about it that related to this divine intoxication. There we are back in the mongoose gene key again. And so, just to really look at that it's like, if this is laziness, like you said, what's the underlying? I think that's a great question to be able to ask ourselves. That's something that I'll ask myself when I catch myself procrastinating. And sometimes I don't go and I don't try and write what I'm intending to write, but I'll just write some of the thoughts that are out, and I'll air that thought out. And it just might be a stream of consciousness into my journal or something like that. But it can be really insightful and really helpful. And, I worked as a personal trainer for 10 years, guiding people in the gym, and I would see people procrastinating, and underneath it were many different reasons. And so it was never about judging them for it, but just inquiring deeper. And I remember one in particular where a guy was late for an appointment with me, and rather than, come on, and being like how the personal trainers would be, we spoke for a few minutes, and then he acknowledged that he was feeling guilty, and we hung up the phone. And then he called back a few minutes later. He said, actually, I'm coming, because it was the guilt of not going that had been his obstacle. So it's like, looking at that, the guilt, the shame, those different kinds of things can be really powerful as to what's underlying it. Because procrastination, laziness, and distraction can become, we can beat ourselves up with them without really getting to what's underneath them. So I would say, invite the snake. What's underneath this? Like you said, the rattlesnake is about the fear of being exposed. And what's the thought that's being exposed through this?
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, Matthew. I'm thinking too, there's a little bit of a paradox. Like on the one hand, the distraction and the laziness, the perfectionism can get in the way. And so we want to go underneath that. And then sometimes the distraction is the way. Like what's in the way is the way. It's really about our perception of it. If we're looking at it as a distraction, like maybe all you're reading is the way into your writing, right? This is your research. That's about how do you perceive it? How do you hold it? And can you move through it and utilize it, transmute it into energy that fuels what it is that you truly want to be doing? And so that's something to think about as well. So it's like another piece of it. So how are those things that you're distracting yourself with, how might they actually be in service of your spiritual goals? Your deeper social
because even watching TV and or watching TV can be a real, it's like we can dub ourselves couch potatoes or what have, and then it's like, I always find it fascinating when I am drawn to a show or something. It's like, oh man, this is totally playing out a theme that I've been contemplating, it's like, how do I work with that? And I think as well, this whole part of the dream arc is about being able to tap into our intuition, right? And so sometimes my intuition does really, I've learned over the years, it's like discerning what's my intuition versus what's being driven from something else inside of me. But when I listen to that intuition, sometimes it really does pull me towards something. Like recently, Wicked, the movie Wicked, it had not really been on my radar at all. It wasn't like a desire to go see it, but there was always a curiosity. And then there was just I felt this real strong intuitive pull towards it, and went along and loved it, loved the themes of it, and also seeing how it's now part of a creative project that I'm collaborating on with some other folks. Yeah. And so, it's like, I think it's really good to be discerning. I hear discernment in what we're talking about here as well.
And this is so good, because it's just reminding me of like if you look at the dream arc as a spiritual practice. And for me, it's one I'm feeling more and more called into, and not just the dream arc, but this intersection between our intuition, our imagination, and the symbolic archetypal meaning that we can extract from everything in our life.
Absolutely.
Everything. Like whether it's a television show or anything. Like it's really about how awake are we? How creative are we in relation to everything that's happening inside of us and outside of us? And if we're really living in a dream, a waking dream, then suddenly everything becomes fodder for a creative process. And I think that's really what the dream arc is about. So, Matthew, I'm aware of our time. What do you think? Should I extend another invitation, or have we like extended enough as it is? What do you think?
Well, I think if we can summarize kind of what we've been sharing here and summarize that in the invitation, we've had the invitation for this space. I mean, some of you might be approaching this for the first time and just curious. It's like, yeah, maybe you step away and it's like, yeah, what am I hunting for? Maybe I'm not hunting for anything right now. Maybe I'm resting, right? Maybe this is a time of rest. And if you're hunting for something, what are you hunting for? And maybe we have our Gazelle newsletter, which is where you can find a lot of free resources from the Dream Arc, and there is an oracle in there. There's 6 creatures that you can possibly receive in the oracle, and they're in this one. They're about speaking to and enhancing one of our senses. So it could be our sight, our hearing, it could be our taste, our touch. And that's a fun little way that you could experiment and work with the hunters as well. So the Gazelle offers sort of some guidance for us around this. So if you're curious, you might want to check out the Gazelle. I believe it's in our bio, if you click on the Dream Arc bio here. And then if you want something deeper, I say invite away. Rosie, so if you want to.
Oh, I see. You're talking to me now. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I thought it might be interesting to just hone in on that first of the 3 tenets, the view, that we were reading from the guidance about the Cobra. And essentially, like we keep talking about, like the invitation of the Cobra is to hunt for our highest or our deepest spiritual goal. And this means, going beneath the surface of our kind of everyday goals and our good sounding goals, but our half-hearted goals, right? And getting to the core of why we're truly here. So I'd love everyone to just ask yourself, what did you come here to experience, to accomplish, to become? Why on earth would you, of all humans, incarnate onto this crazy planet at this extremely turbulent time into your particular family with its strengths and its loves and its wounds and its shadows? Why would you end up in your particular body with its natural abilities and its pains and aches and struggles and addictions? What is it that you have come here to experience on a spiritual level? And just let these questions wash over and through you and see if anything arises. It might also be interesting to think about the time in your life when you discovered that you were actually on a spiritual path. When your spiritual path consciously started. And maybe this was 5 years ago. Maybe this was 10 or 20 or 60 years ago. So just think back to that time, your first spiritual opening or breakthrough, when you realized there was more to life than just the 5 senses. And where were you? Like, can you remember, like, what would you say, or who would you say was the catalyst for that awakening? And if you were to go back and ask that younger you what that person's highest spiritual goal was, what would they have said? What would their answer be? And if you feel inspired, just feel free to share anything in the comments that's coming up for you, or jot it down in your journal if you've got one. And now, think of all that you've been through since that time. The ebbs and the flows, the times of spiritual intensification, the times of distraction or busyness or pain or growth. And then think about where you are today and who you've become and what you care about and what you prioritize now. Maybe your spiritual goals have changed since that first awakening. Mine have. Maybe they've stayed the same. Do you feel that you're more clear now than you were when you were younger about why you're here? Do you feel even more on your path, even more aligned with your goals? Or do you feel more confused? Like, have you been disillusioned? Have you experienced abuse in spiritual community situations? Did that turn you off? Did you lose your way? And would you say that your goals have become more or less realistic and attainable? More or less connected to nature? More or less ritualized? I'm just this is to stimulate you as you move on with your day, more or less playful, experimental, more or less human, more or less self-loving, self-embracing. And whatever comes up for you, just let it come up, and feel free to share anything here or take these questions or just one of them that stands out from you from our time together into your daily contemplations, and go on a hunt, right? Like allow Cobra to work its magic. Go deep into it and let one thing lead to another. So that was my invitation for people, inspired by you and the Cobra.
That's so deep. I love it. That's such a deep reflection, isn't it? And, you know, and as you're talking too, just as we bring this call to a close, this won't be the first time that we dip into the snake energy. We've got a whole year to work with it. And so Cobra was just our first one, but look where it's taken us. Look how, I mean, you know, it's these creatures, especially the fear keys in the dream arc, but definitely these snakes. They are belly to the earth beings. They are about being here on form. And why, you know, like that question you asked, why did you choose here to be at this time when there is so much going down, so much intensity, and we're still here, we're still kicking, and we're still like, what is that? You know, to share the magic with all, as Shannon Lee shared in hers, you know, it's like, what is that we're here to do? And so, you know, we'll continue to work with the snake this year. And as we do so, I think, especially as it's a wood snake, you know, with its themes of stability and creativity, I think we're only going to come deeper into this, you know, to come deeper into this human form, and at the same time recognizing this, there's so much more to us, you know, that we are not limited to this one lifetime. We're not limited, but we're here and we're engaged in this lifetime. And the snakes, they'll remind us what it's like to be here right now and to explore them all. And it could be one of the 5 snakes of the dream arc, which is the snake. What's the snake? Yeah, it is the snake or serpent, the rattlesnake. We've got the rattlesnake, the python, the adder, and the cobra are other ones. But there's many others. And what I love is like, look at which one you're drawn to. Which one are you intuitively drawn to? If you are drawn to a television show and suddenly there's one about snakes, yay, go for that, right? It's like, what is that that's drawing you in? What is the qualities? Is that snake, you know, is that a friendly snake with humans? Or is that a snake that gets very defensive? Is that like a snake that will... boa constrictor, which will wrap itself around its prey. All these things, this is how we work with the dream arc. It's intuition and imagination, allowing us to form our relationship and our connection. So it's almost like we embody these qualities. You spend enough time with these creatures, and it's like we start to pick up the instincts of those creatures. And so maybe we're being drawn to creatures that have instincts that we haven't yet mastered in our own life. And so that can be really, you know, really powerful. And these snakes, they have been demonized in so many cultures for such a long time. And yet at the same time, they've been honored in many other traditions and cultures. And to find, we recognize the complexity of humans as, you know, we're not purely evil and purely good. There we're all this dance of light and dark. And so snake really brings that to me as medicine. And so, you know, Angie here is saying, this gives me enough to contemplate for at least the next month. Awesome. So mission accomplished. And yes, there will be, we'll be doing more of these live calls, these dream arc live Instagrams. We do at least once a month, and we're looking at all the different ways we can engage the community. Rosie, I think it's 11:11 here my time, if anyone likes the number magic. So we might be about ready to round up the call here. Did you want to say any final words before we close up?
Just how grateful I am for people who show up to these little sessions. It means a lot to me. Yeah. Thank you all so much. And Happy New Year.
Yeah, Rosie and I. Yes, Happy New Year. Happy New Year of the snake.
Strap in for this one. We're in for a ride, we humans.
The snakes can be your seatbelt. Definitely. We appreciate this interaction.
Matthew, that's really good. Like, can we find safety in transformation? Can we find safety in radical change?
Yeah.
You know, because the things that we've looked to for safety before are not necessarily going to provide us that stability anymore. And so how do we let the snake energy be our grounding change? So I'm going to really take that one with me. What would that even look or feel like?
Yeah, that's great.
That's good.
Great. Yeah. It's like some of the things that we've been told that snakes aren't safe, but what if they're actually one of the most transformative allies you could invite into your life at this time?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What if the willingness and ability to transform is the thing that's going to keep us safe, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going to keep us safe if we can adapt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And more than that.
Yes. And more than that. Yes. And yes, thank you. We do appreciate these spaces, Rosie and I. We work a lot behind the scenes on different things, and it is nice to interact and hear from those who are experiencing it or inviting it in some way. So thank you for joining us. And for anybody who's new to us and wondering what the heck we're talking about, you can go to our Dream Arc. You can go to our bio at the top. You'll see the Dream Arc Gazelle newsletter. That's one great way of being able to get in touch with what we're about here and maybe receive a little animal inspiration. It is the Dream Arc, so it's also about opening up to the world of dreams. Don't be surprised if you maybe have a snake dream or two this year. People have been already emailing me about snake dreams before they even realized that we were moving into the year of the snake. So, it makes sense. The Dream Arc has quite a foundation in the I Ching, the Chinese I Ching. And so, it makes sense that we might have kind of an animal alignment with these yearly cycles. And so, the Gazelle is a great place to check us out. And then if you're really ready to take in the deep dive, that's what we always encourage joining us. And the Dream Arc course you can find through the Gazelle newsletter as well. And that's where we have all of these 192 creatures. We've dealt with one creature today. I'm glad we don't deal with 192 at once. And we can invite these creatures in gentle ways, and we can work with them a little bit, or we can go deep with them. And I feel Cobra wanting to take us deep this year. So I'm along for the ride with these snakes. So Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. We'll be back next month, and we'll keep the next theme a bit of a mystery, and we'll let you know once the new Gazelle is coming out. But for now, continue to enjoy.
It's a little mystery to us as well. I just want to say, if anybody, if you know anybody who might enjoy these little live Instas or want to go check out some of our content on YouTube, please send them our way. We would really love that. We don't do a lot of promotional type stuff, but we do put a lot of wonderful content out there because we feel that what the Dream Arc is about is kind of what the world needs right now. So if you know anybody who'd be interested, send them to YouTube or Instagram. That'd be great. Yeah, we'll have the reel will be available for people to send out again. And we'll also, over the next 48 hours, we'll get a copy of it onto the Gazelle as well. So, but yeah, we definitely appreciate that. And just a big thank you, everybody. It's nice to see familiar faces in here and to engage with you. And may this year be full of snaky magic for you in whatever way it's supporting you. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Thank you, Rosie. We'll see everybody soon. Bye for now. Bye. Bye-bye.